Hi everyone, welcome to Life Edge, because life just doesn't have to be mediocre, especially now. In trying times, don't be mediocre. Think above the masses. Do something different. Be brave. Don't be afraid. I am joined today by somebody who's very brave, not afraid. Dr. Susan Nash. You're not afraid, right, Susan?
No, we can make
No.
it.
Yep. Good, good, good. Dr. Susan Nash. She is cool. What can I say? Anyway, let's start.
It's so nice. It's so great to be here.
And we are back and joined by Harold Muliati as well.
Sorry for cutting you off there, Susan.
That was fine.
So anyway, here we are. It's another week, another virus, another shutdown, lockdown. I don't know. There's a lot of talk on the internet and every other place that, a lot of people on TV are fomenting fear. And it's obvious. The news
Yes.
media is only talking fear. The other day they were saying, there's no such thing as a solution. There's no cure for this. We're all going to die. There are cures. There's a doctor in New York, and I don't remember his name. He was on, I think, Fox News last week or this week, and he said he had 350 patients, all with the virus or supposedly with the virus. Every one of them was cured by a three-prong approach. Zinc sulfate. He gave them zinc sulfate, hydrochloroquinine, which is the anti-malarial drug, and a Z-Pak, erythromycin. 350 cured. They don't talk about that. They're not talking about the things that there are a lot of solutions. There's doctors giving people quinine. They're giving them tonic water. I mean, doctors are very resourceful. They do what they can in emergency to get people going. So to say there are no solutions, you're all going to die, it's first of all, it's wrong. Second, from what I've been reading and hearing, and if you look on the web, there's a lot of information. It's like a zero point 0.2 fatality rate right now, which is low. That's actually pretty low. And that's of the cases that they're counting. They're not counting. If you test positive for the virus, they're not saying, they're counting you as having it. You may have it. Doesn't mean you have any symptoms or will actually get it. You could just carry it, which means you're contagious. But there's also another thing they don't talk about. I guess they call it, what do we call it? There's a word for it, immunity, herd immunity. The more people
Yeah.
have it, the more immune we become. And if you've had it once, you tend to be immune from any other one. If you had other viruses, you tend to have a chance at immunity. Seniors, for example, they're dying of pneumonia a lot. The virus can cause pneumonia symptoms because if your system is already low, your immune system is low, seniors often die from pneumonia. The pneumococci virus is what they usually die from anyway. That could be around. So we've got multiple flus. You've got the virus technically going on, which it seems pretty light in most cases. And we are hyper focusing on every single death as if this is something nature just created. People don't ever
Well,
die until now. And that's insane.
okay. So I'm here in Norman, Oklahoma, and
Hmm.
today's our first day of shelter in place for
Yes.
3 weeks. We're supposed to not leave our houses except for like really extreme things, and I think we can walk around our neighborhoods. Not
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
but I will say that I kind of agree with the fear mongering to a certain extent
Yeah.
because it would be nice to keep people from. I think we're going to have to change our concept of hospitals because we're paying for bad
Hmm.
health policy.
Sure.
So we have no supplies, nothing,
Mm-mm.
yet we're starting to create them. But I think that we're going to have to rethink it. And when we get sick, we're going to have to be able to start our own IVs or start our own. Well, I mean, I don't know. We'll have to do a lot more than we're doing now at
Yeah.
home. Maybe not IVs or
Well,
intubation, but
well, if you listen to some of the analysts or actually doctors and stuff, they're saying we're a sick nation. We're not a healthy nation. We drink too much. We don't eat well. We're way overweight. We have a lot of diabetes. We have a lot of issues. 80-year-olds have even more issues. Now you've got old age creeping in with all the things that can go wrong. And so they're very susceptible to getting sick. Americans on the whole don't have the healthiest. We act like we're healthy, but there's a lot of, as we get older, there's a lot of bad habits we have. And there's a lot of junk food and everything else. That doesn't mean it's going to make you sick.
But Rick, young people are dying. And Harold, I'd like to hear what you think, because I'm hearing that a lot of it has to do with viral load. If you get sneezed on or spit on or something, your body can't handle this one. But if you can get a mask, something just to break it up. I mean, how do you feel, Harold? Are you like nervous or worried?
I'm not really that nervous about it, but what I'm wondering is, I'm still not too clear on, how much is based on actual data from this current infection, and how much is kind of extrapolated from similar coronaviruses like SARS and stuff like that. Because from what I've heard, the symptoms that are presented from this compared to SARS are kind of similar but different. Like I've heard, for example, that, and this has been mostly anecdotal, it hasn't really been carried out too much by studies and that kind of thing, but that with the COVID-19, people tend to lose their sense of smell and taste for at least the duration of the infection. And with SARS, that was a pretty big thing. Like I remember reading that people would lose those senses up to 2 years sometimes, even after the infection had passed. But I'm not sure, when statements are made about this one, I'm not sure how much is actually, like, how much do we actually know and how much is just being extrapolated from previous things. It's kind of unclear in a lot of cases.
And also, Susan, one of the things with whether young people of all generations in any flu, virus, epidemic, whatever it is, get sick and die, regardless. This is nothing unusual, unique, and so far statistically, we're very, very, very low on this one. And it probably did hit most people back around December, January. Because a lot of people had those symptoms that we're having now, really severe virus. Some of them were hit hard. Most of them recouped. It's just interesting. I think there's a lot of political manipulation going on right now, which is a shame. But that happens all the time. And people have gone on TV and even said they're wanting depressions. They want this. They want to get rid of Trump, whatever. That serves no positive anything for what we're talking about. If you're willing to destroy a country for one person, that's sick. That's sort of psychotic or psychopathic. The virus is real. Nobody's denying that the virus is real. But if you're healthy, the chances of it doing anything to you are low, very, very, very low.
Well, I don't know. I think if you get a lot of viral load and you run down, I think it's tough. But, okay, are you in Ventura County in California?
Yeah, we are. There's very little out here.
Okay, so has anybody died in your county?
I think 2. I think.
Okay, yeah, that's how many
but they
died.
were very old. I think they were quite ancient.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of people dying in this county anyway. We have a large senior community here, huge.
Well, a lot of comorbidities too. A lot of people with extreme asthma or with transplants or yeah. Fentanyl.
And it's real common to have weak lungs. A lot of people get old. How many people that are old still smoke? A lot. Smoking doesn't help your lungs. There's a lot of things. So we're focusing on one thing. We're not focusing on a more realistic approach to this. Is this any different from any virus? I don't think so. Maybe it's more catchable, but that means more people will probably resist it, which means eventually that'll create a larger herd immunity. So,
well, I think we're really going to not have any choice. It's going to rip through anyway, but like, Harold, did you go surfing this weekend?
I was joking with Rick about this. I'm basically a shut-in. I haven't gone out that much, but I don't go out much anyway.
Yeah, none of us have a life.
Yeah, I mean,
I applaud you.
And for me, the thing is, I think a positive of not necessarily the infection, but just the response to it. Not all the shutdown stuff necessarily, but I do like the emphasis and the fact that people are taking a little more seriously the need to be a little more hygienic and wash your hands.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Not, not spit on stuff or whatever.
Susan, let me tell you, you do not know, or maybe you do know, you never know, how many men in bathrooms don't wash their hands.
Ew.
Go to an airport, go anywhere, and it is amazing how few wash their hands. So maybe this will get people to wash hands more. Oh, believe me, I've seen it. And it's like, ew.
I think if we start getting people actually practicing, basic hygiene that we've known for a long time, then we could, I don't know about this disease, but I think we could eradicate some of the other diseases and stuff that have been floating around for a long time. Yeah, just
simple things. But seriously, you go to bathrooms and offices, and my wife said, even in women's bathrooms, a lot of women don't wash. She goes, oh, no, it's not. You're not limited to just men. Hygiene is one of those things people go, I don't care, not me. It's kind of crazy.
Well, here's another thought, too, though. Okay, so in about a month, even if it's just ravaging this country, we'll have to figure out how to live with it like they are in China. So one thing I am in favor of is the idea of universal masks for a while. Even if they're cloth masks. So last week we had this apocalyptic, very depressing idea of the medical supply chain. This week we know that people are sewing at home. They're creating cloth masks. They're doing 3D printing for like face shields. But I'm okay with I think it's a good idea for 100% of everyone to wear, 100% of the population to wear masks. And also gloves.
I don't think it would do much.
Well,
because they're even saying the mask sometimes can make you sicker. It's not that.
How would it make you sicker? I mean, can you make yourself sick on your own virus load?
I don't know. But I don't know if that many people have that much of a virus load. Some might. I don't know. There are a lot of people.
I don't think masks make you sicker.
That's what they were saying. They were saying that some doctors are saying, especially if they're using the wrong masks or the kind of mask, some of them don't filter enough. It's a little tricky. Like surgical masks are good. They're okay. They're not too bad. A lot of doctors use them mostly to keep them out of the. I was talking to one doctor, and he says,
"That's what I'm saying." If we weren't spewing all over people.
Well, yeah, okay, that's true. Yeah, you don't.
That's my whole point. Until we know that we're all cleared up and we have herd immunity, if we can at least minimize the viral load on each other, but everybody have a mask.
But let me ask you this, Susan. Every year we have the same flus running around, and they kill the same number of people. We lose 25 or 20 to about 50,000 or 60,000 per year, every year on flus. What makes this any different?
Well, I guess we'll see. They're definitely the stats are looking pretty intense. I mean, it looks like we're going to be.
But they're not growing anywhere near as much as normal flus. And they're not registering most people. Most people who probably get it don't know it. They wait it out for a week. They're done and they're healthy again. So I don't see any difference from a regular flu to this one, which is basically a typical coronavirus, which is what we get all the time.
Well, we can be like Mexico and not test anybody at all. So it looks like you have 500 cases.
Yeah, I know. And we're testing, but we're not testing people. There's been some scams with a lot of places turning people away, saying just go home for 2 weeks, and they're not doing any testing. So
they couldn't get the test kits.
Right.
But like now that the Mexicans don't want Americans to cross the border. Harold, what do you think of all that?
I think that's kind of interesting, but it's just going with the theme of, basically both our borders are shut down. But going back to like what I was saying before about the basic hygiene stuff and speaking of, just the normal seasonal flu, I do think that if we can get people to take hygiene a little more seriously, then we could reduce probably the deaths from flu, because there are actually a lot of deaths from just normal flu virus and like you were mentioning before, the streptococcal pneumonia. It's something that there are a lot of preventable deaths that just if people were a little bit cleaner and stuff like that.
And by the way, some doctors have been saying a reason why we are getting sicker here is we have too many vaccines. They're saying the vaccines are lowering the immune system big time. We are on pharma like you can't believe for so many different diseases. Statins lower your immune system humongously.
Oh, right.
So these are all the things nobody's talking about. That's why I sound like I'm really fed up with it. I am. I don't see this as any different from anything else, and I see the media manipulating fear like there's no tomorrow, and that makes
Well, it's
people
worked on
crazy.
me.
Yeah, I mean, but they are manipulating people. Think of the 70,000 Italians that died 4 years ago from a flu. Think of the 5 or 6,000 that died now from a virus. And the thing is, we didn't care 4 years ago. Nobody talked about it. But now we're hyper focusing on everybody. So we're being manipulated. And it's nothing more than that at this point. Do we have higher numbers? No. In fact, the numbers are pretty low. They're not going up that high. If you consider it as a regular flu season, we're pretty low. And most people have probably already had it, which people know about. We're not talking about any solutions. We're only talking about the fear. I haven't heard any mainstream media talk solutions at all. None. And you just go, wow. It's just wow. Some doctors are getting on and talking, but they're coming back and say, oh, that's not true. Yes, it is. Zinc is a good immunobooster. That's why it's in everything. Doctors use zinc all the time. It's in most cold medications, flu medications, because it works. Zinc gets into the cells, goes into the mitochondria, stops the cell from reproducing, kills the bacteria cells. It works. Does it work for everyone? No. Can it work for a lot of people? Yes. So, there's a lot of stuff we're not looking at. We're just running like a herd in fear, and that doesn't make any sense. And I think destroying our economy for something that is natural, that we will die, everyone will eventually die. We're not rushing to kill people. They're dying like they do every year. Maybe with washing hands and being cleaner, they won't die as much. That's just pure hygiene. A lot of seniors don't have great hygiene. A lot of young people don't have great hygiene. So, it's just the nature of what we do and how we do it. I don't think we need to overreact as a whole. I don't think right now, like I said, the death rates are 0.2%. That's extremely small. It's smaller than what we
Well,
normally
here's
have.
something you think about too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If we don't find a way to live with it, even if it's like even kind of psychological, or like wearing masks and going to work and figuring out like better hygiene and
Mm-hmm.
working from home and social distancing, if we don't figure out how to do that in at least a month, then China will not be able to survive because they're an export-based economy.
That's correct. And
really
nobody's talking about that. You are the only
Yeah.
person I have heard in the last 2 weeks say that.
Really?
Congratulations, Susan.
Well, I mean, we need to think
But
about
that's
our
true.
friends in China.
Yeah.
We've got to be unified. We can't be demonizing each other. We
No.
can't do anything. We've got to work together and start our global economy back up.
Yeah, because the Chinese are the ones who are going to suffer the most from this, because they're a large part of that global economy. If we wind up in a depression, I don't care what party anybody's in, they will have more death from the depression than they will from any virus, period. Because there's a lot of
really
violence
sacrifice
in this particular country. We're violent. We have a lot of violent people. Let them go. Let the violence happen when we have a depression. This is not 1929 anymore. We're a lot more violent than we used to be. It's going to get ugly. It's going to get real
Well,
ugly.
and also, we have to keep in mind that there are all sorts of rumors, like the Chinese started it, the Italians started it,
Mm-hmm.
it was like some other thing. It kind of doesn't matter. The Chinese suffered a lot to try to contain it the best they could, but you can't. And I think that we were all filled with terror, and we are still, but we've got to overcome that in a way to get this. And we also need to think about national food security and medical supplies and supply chains to have more manufacturing here.
Yeah, but that's for sure. That's for sure. And any country in the world that wants to depend 100% on someone else is foolish. And we're greedy. This country is very greedy. A lot of companies are extremely greedy. I have Apple computers. I have Apple devices. Apple is one of the greediest companies around. They're working on basically a slave labor environment and making a fortune on it.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
saying.
Well, how about
Just saying.
Yeah. How about the ones the big pharma here that they managed to get the precursors of the done like really cheaply in India and China,
I know.
and also the pills and stuff.
Yep.
And they get here one pill that costs maybe
$500.
$1.
Yeah.
Yeah, $100.
Or 500. Oh, it's amazing what they're charging. And you go to Mexico, you can get the same pill for $12 or a buck. Yeah. There's greed that is just unparalleled. I was talking with Harold there. There was a movie years ago. I don't know if you remember this one. Heaven Can Wait. It was Warren Beatty, Julie Christie, and a couple of others. And it was all about a guy who dies and gets put into the body of a rich man who's a jerk. And he's a really nice guy, the guy who dies. And how he changes his company. It's a really cute movie, but it shows the greed of one person versus, hey, you can do things without being so greedy. You don't have to make that much money. And, there's no limit to some people. They just got to have more and more and more and more and more. If you want to be a billionaire, go for it. Have at it. But when that becomes the only goal and to screw people over, that doesn't make sense. It's not just about profits. And pharma is very guilty of that. Pharma cries a lot about, what do they call it? Research money. We spend millions on research. Yeah, about 500 million. They make 25 billion, I think, or more. But 500 million is on research. That's nothing. It's a very small amount of 25 billion in profits. 500 million is nothing. And so where the costs are. They're not that high. And making the pills is very cheap for the most part. And so, what is it? 83% of all pharma is made in China. Holy smoke! I didn't know that.
Well, they used to be like Abbott Labs in Wisconsin and all those things.
Yeah, gone.
Yeah, I remember seeing them. Okay, so I have another question for you, Harold. Okay, so has this experience so far changed your art? Are you doing any art, and how has it changed it?
I mean,
he draws a lot of dead people. I don't
not so much, I guess.
Zombies?
Zombies.
That's appropriate.
I don't know. I guess I haven't done a whole lot of stuff since this started because I've mostly been, I've mostly been like spending my time trying to make sure that I'm, trying to stock up and all that kind of thing. Make sure that my family.
Harold also works a lot, so he keeps busy and he's doing things, and we haven't shut down. We're trying to stay open as much as possible.
But yeah, I want to make sure that we'll be
kind of zero.
Okay.
Except I did have this idea.
Oops.
Swan, because there's like the oil. The price of oil dropped a lot, plus the coronavirus. So I thought this ghastly, evil twin picture of double black swan that I can't really pull it off.
Well, you know what? Nobody's talking about. We're waging a war on 3 fronts right now: Russia, China, and Saudi Arabia. Russia and China and Saudi Arabia are kind of collaborating to lower the prices to make us pay for it because they want to keep the prices high. They're going to bring us down so we can't be the biggest oil producer. That's the war. We're doing a mild war. Nobody's getting shot or killed, but we're basically going after each other. China, which is sort of foolish, is going after us for political reasons when they suffer the most if we don't buy. The Europeans don't mean a thing. We buy 10 times more than everybody in the world. And as a result, if they screw with us too much, they have no money. They die. It's foolish. Yeah, so we have these weird wars right now that are just political. They're not intelligent wars. They're political wars. That's all.
And we have to be friends with our neighbors to the south, too.
Right.
We have to.
Yeah, nice. I agree. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. But if you just start paying attention, reading, analyzing, it's pretty obvious. It's not that difficult to see what's going on and how it's going on and what's going to happen. It's just the only people who ever really pay for it are the people. And it's always that. I don't care what country anybody's from, it's always the people. And in the U.S., the middle class is not what it used to be. They're scrunching us down big time. It's not nowhere near what it was. I was born in Argentina, grew up here, but in Argentina, the middle class is just about gone. And you go, wow, they had a large middle class. It was like 70% middle, gone. There's very few left. And you just go, wow. So, and that's kind of what most countries want, at least certain countries. And not a good place to be. You can't have just people on top and people at the bottom. That usually winds up with a revolution somewhere. Look at history. It may take a long time. It took Russians 100 years to get rid of the communists. And boy, were they happy when they did. They just feel like they didn't know what to do with themselves because all of a sudden they had freedoms. They didn't have death. You weren't watched every second of the day. So there's all sorts of stuff that people forget and people don't pay attention to. We're too busy. Nobody learns or analyzes. And unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff going on, and they get right by all the problems going on because the media doesn't report anything. They only report what they want you to hear. Sad.
Yeah, I think in the meantime, we're going to have more stigma from like people, New Yorkers fleeing New York, and then
Yeah, I know.
We don't want to hear you bring your virus. And then I think that the key now is to start focusing on some other potential apocalyptic thing. Like, did you know that the Yellowstone caldera has been like heating up?
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a good time. It's a fun time. But you know what? I think, who was it? Elon Musk the other day said, you think this is bad? You should have been born 100 years ago.
He's right.
He's got a point there. So,
or 105 years ago.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. If you think about it, there's one thing we've learned how to do as humans over the last 100 and something years, and that's reproduce without restraint. We went from having not even 1 billion people at the beginning of last century to, 7 billion now? We've learned to reproduce and I guess have a lot of fun. I don't know. It's crazy. But,
well, so speaking of that, okay, so let's think about the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's a reptilian brain that's just all about appetite.
Back of the brain.
And then there's the limbic system that's fight, flight, feed, fornicate.
Right.
That's like emotions too, and the emotional part.
Uh-huh.
And if that's super triggered, like if we're feeling fear, we literally cannot use our prefrontal cortex.
No.
We literally cannot be rational.
And we're the only mammal on Earth that has it, at least to the size we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of scary.
And so we've got to like be able to use that prefrontal cortex to start thinking and thinking.
It's the governor. This is the governor.
Thoughts.
This part of our brain is the governor. It stops us from becoming savages. It ain't doing that great a job.
That's from the big organ damage. I mean, our organs will damage our organs with all that crazy stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So, fun times. Well, we are just about out of time, and it's an interesting world we live in. That's all I can say. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Susan, stay strong, stay not fearful, and nothing will happen to you. You're healthy.
And Harold, do you feel strong and optimistic, or do you feel?
I think I'm about as optimistic as usual. I'm not that strong. I have noodly arms and all that. But
you can bench press 500 pounds. Don't believe him.
I just want to say though, for anyone washing out there, wash your hands after you use the bathroom.
Yeah,
it's just
it's a good thing.
It's gross if you don't.
Yeah, and
seriously,
it is true. Women and men, wash your hands. What is it? Wipe your butts, wash your hands. It's a good.
Preferably washing the hands after the other one.
After they're wiping, yes, wipe then wash. Yeah, it's like when you just said, what did you say? Fight, flee, or fornicate. I think is what you said.
The 4 Fs.
Yeah, the 4 Fs.
Fight, flight, feed, fornicate.
Yeah. Well, in most people, it's probably fight, fornicate, flee, and feed.
I don't know. I feel like it's more like
there's a lot of sexual abuse out there. So, it's just we're a savage people in many ways. It's sort of scary. People can have developed frontal lobes, but boy, there's a lot of Cro-Magnons still out there amongst us who are very violent or could get violent at anything like that.
Well, I read a really
go to an average soccer
article.
game. You got hooligans in the average soccer games. They're violent.
Yeah, but also they can harness that for the good. I read a very Machiavellian article that said 7 ways to harness your customer's reptilian brain to influence.
Oh, that sounds like a good article. Yep, that's funny.
It's like all the marketing guys using the neuro-linguistic programming and stuff like that.
They do. They do. And they abuse it. And it's real easy to abuse neurolinguistics. I studied that when I was younger. And, you know, when you know neurolinguistic programming, if you can use it, you can abuse people easily. And that's why you should never use it. It's so easy to control people with that. And to make people think or do it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing because people are susceptible. And that's what the media does a lot of NLP. They do it by constant association, by repetition, by basically syllogisms. If I'm wearing a blue shirt and the sky is blue, my shirt is the sky. Brilliant. That's a syllogism. And yet, that's pretty much how a lot of people think. If everyone has the flu, I'm going to get it too. Not necessarily. Or if I have flu symptoms and you have flu symptoms and I die, that means you're going to die. That's syllogistic. And the syllogists were idiots. I hate to say it, but they were really stupid. They couldn't come up with good reasons for anything. Everything was just by association. It doesn't work that way. Anyway, this is fun.
We have science now.
Yep. So this is Life Edge. You live life on the edge. You either survive or you don't. And we've been surviving pretty well.
Yeah.
We'll be fine. You'll all be fine if you just relax a bit, wash your hands, wipe first, then wash, and it's good. Don't lick your hands and then touch someone. That's bad. Things like that.
Yeah.
We had a guy who used to work with it. He used to suck his fingers all the time. It's like, and one of the graphic artists would go, "What is wrong with him? He's always sucking his fingers." I go, "I don't know. Maybe they taste good. I just don't know." It was called the guy had anxiety. He just had bad anxiety. So it's like, oh, they would shake somebody's hand. I'm like, oh God, he just shook somebody's hand.
It's
that's another good reason to put exam gloves on you. Nobody's going to chew you with an exam glove.
It's like
but you don't know where they put those exam gloves.
There's that video going around of that public health official from Santa Clara County in California, who, she was giving this speech in front of all these government employees on how important it is to not touch your face and stuff like that. And then she has her speech and she's licking her fingers as she turns the pages.
That's funny. Yep. Ding. Oh man, that's good. Anyway, Susan, have a great one. Stay safe and stay healthy, and just keep analyzing what you see. Like you said, you made a very good comment today about the supply chain that the Chinese and everybody else has to get a little real. You destroy one economy, you destroy the world economy. And who's going to be left? Bill Gates? I mean, come on. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to work together. We need to have unity in the world.
Yep.
In a positive way.
Yep. And the world would, I read once a saying, it was something like, if we got rid of 10,000 psychopaths, the world would be a better place. And the psychopaths were the ones who run countries. I went, there's a lot of truth there probably, because we wouldn't be in wars more often than not if it weren't for psychopaths. So, just saying.
I'm with you.
Why can't we just get along, right? Anyway, well, have a good one. And if you're watching the show, I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you learned something from it and think a little bit. Analyze a little bit of what's going on. Don't react with the back of your brain. React with the front. It'll be a lot better, a little bit safer. Take care, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and take your supplements and vitamins and wash your hands. It'll be good. Bye-bye.
And we'll see you next time on Life Edge.